Everybody I talk to here on the show has a story, and that's why we're here to share these incredible stories. And this gentleman, I've known for a few years now, known of for many years, and we've established kind of a friendship from afar occasionally, but we always come back to see face to face. Richard Beland, aka Ricky.
Ricky, yeah.
How you doing?
As my cousins call me, I'm great. Thank you. Yeah, everything's good.
And your family, I always start there. You're from the area.
Yeah, I grew up in Brights Grove. I was actually born in Sarnia, and I was raised initially out in Blue Point,
right,
past Brights Grove. But my formative years came from Brights Grove Public School, and then off to St. Clair High School, which is now Great Lakes.
Right, you're a Grovite.
I'm a Grovite, Grover, through and through.
Yeah, and I went to St. Clair, but I think you must be a couple of years older than me.
I'm going to be 58 in November.
Yeah, so
67,
right.
baby.
Yeah, I'm 56, and I failed a grade, so you were probably senior or gone by the time I got there.
Yeah, I was just telling my daughter today, I was at Fanshawe College studying mechanical engineering when I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah, and I said, it's too young to throw you out into something that big. And
yeah.
I mean, I turned 18 that November, but I was the youngest teenager
17
in my class.
years old. And then did you feel the pressure from family or society in general to make a decision to do something? And 17, like that is pretty young.
Yeah, I don't know if it was pressure, but we grew up in the area outside the refineries.
Guided pressure, I mean.
Yeah, my dad was a welder and a pipe fitter, and he used to come home every night, and I could tell how tired he was, and he'd be dirty, and he was a hard worker. And I knew I was destined for the refineries based on growing up here. I had 6 credits in welding in high school. So rather than go straight into welding, I thought, how can I get into the refineries and stay clean? And so I thought doing drafting, doing mechanical engineering. And that's why I went to study mechanical engineering for 3 years. And it was my way of going to the refineries, but staying clean.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You didn't want to look like that at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I was too young to have any sort of developmental time to realize I really wanted to do something more artistic. I really wanted to do photography ultimately.
Yeah.
But when you're 17 years old, you're young, you're impressionable, you don't really know.
Yeah.
I think you're too young to go to college or university at that time.
Fair enough. You got to play a little too, right? I mean, life's, you got to have some fun. And did you have fun growing up? Were you a good kid, or were you a little, I know what your brother's like. Sorry, Dave.
My brother's the man that I want to be, and he's younger than me.
Yeah.
I was a good kid, mostly. I guess Brights Grove back in the 80s, you were doing what you could do to have fun. We didn't have phones. We didn't have video games. We hung out on the creek banks.
A lot of fun in the
fishing
fields.
And running around and, shenanigans for sure.
Right. And do you just have the one brother? Or do you have,
Yeah, Dave.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's, what's he do? He's traveling, or is he doing some sports or something?
Oh, he goes snowboarding every winter.
That's
and he's really, really great at it. He's into heli boarding and cat boarding or whatever you call it. He goes way up the mountain, and he goes anywhere from a month to 5 months. He'll take he'll take a good chunk of the winter and goes down to Utah and up to Alaska. He's really. We've been a few times together.
Nice.
But yeah, he's great at it.
And growing up together, were you typical brothers? You kind of roughed each other up a little bit.
For sure, we fought like warriors, but we love each other and we respect each other.
Yeah.
And we have different views on life, but
you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And mom and dad were, like you said, your dad was a really hard worker. Obviously he was a provider. Where was your mom in all of this?
My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And she was a really great mom. She made sure that we had our lunches packed and made sure we were off to school at the right time and we were at our various sports or whatever on time. Yeah.
What did you play?
Hockey was my thing.
Yeah.
Even up until not even that long ago, 10 years ago, I played hockey.
Okay.
Yeah. When I lived in Toronto, I used to play in this, it was called the Good Times Hockey League. And a big league, but every team had to have a minimum of 6 people in the arts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I had guys like George Stroumboulopoulos was on my team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Tim Boland from
There's a guy
Breakfast
I wish
Television.
I could meet and interview him.
Great guy. Yeah, we're on the same line.
Is that right? That's cool.
And Tim Boland from Breakfast Television was my defense partner.
Yeah.
And then people like Jim Cuddy played in the league, and Tyler Stewart from Bare Naked
Jim
Ladies.
Cuddy I met years ago. I was about 25 years old. I was out in New Brunswick, St. John, New Brunswick.
Yep.
And there was the girl I was dating out there at the time. The family had a cottage, and this guy started sitting around the fire there was 20 of us, and started playing a guitar.
No
and
way.
It was Jim Cuddy. I was like,
you couldn't have a better.
And I didn't know at the time. I just like, wow, this guy's really good. Eh? It didn't make any. Yeah, it was 90-ish something, right? And so like a dominant time, I guess, for him, really. But I didn't know who he was any more than I know a hockey player, unless he's wearing the jersey. Right?
Yeah.
And then the girlfriend at the time said, "Oh yeah, that was what." Yeah, it was cool.
Have you seen that Blue Rodeo documentary that just came out?
No, I have
you
not.
have to watch it. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
It just makes you love
They're
them even
fabulous.
more. Yeah.
Like the way that's a whole other story. Jim Cuddy, I'd love to interview you.
Hi, Jim.
Let's
Jim's a great hockey player.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, he's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you a good hockey player?
No.
No,
I'm average.
You knew how to tie skates.
I was a defenseman. I played my
Okay.
part. I think I was competent.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly no superstar.
Yeah. But here's we can talk about I don't know, call it a crossroads in life, or when was the aha moment, when did it happen for you, all that stuff. But here you are, you're in school, you're already talking about these names that went on to do things in a huge way that I guess we would call them the celebrities, the George and the Jims and everybody. Was that the moment for you where you're like, I know I'm in the right place? Or I always say, like, how do you know when you're in the right room?
Well, the initial moment that kind of made me think I wanted to pursue photography, at that point it was more peripheral, was I photographed the Grateful Dead, Tom Petty and Bob Dylan on July 4th, 1986. Easy date to remember because America's birthday.
Right.
But when I got home and I was in my bedroom, I got the film developed over at Superstore or something. But when I got to my bedroom, I was looking at photos, and it just occurred to me, wow, I'm looking at my own photographs rather than Cream or Rolling Stone magazine.
Yeah, right. We're not flipping the page.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at a document of something I attended. And that was kind of the moment where I went, wow, who gets to, how do you do this? How do you turn? But that was still, I didn't graduate from photography till 1994. So from 86 till 94, I still was doing various
But you're
things.
talking like Bob Dylan. I mean, Tom Petty, all of those that you just mentioned, like Bob Dylan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
I know.
You just,
it was an amazing day.
Was this like you were there as media, or you were in the crowd and you just happened? Like,
I took a bus trip from London with a bunch of pals.
Okay.
Probably guys and just pulling up into the parking lot, this whole Grateful Dead community was extraordinary. I'm looking around going, wow, what is this?
They're a culture in itself.
Absolutely. So that, it did a lot for me as a teenager. It was an eye opener. I never saw the Grateful Dead again until another year from then, on June 30th, 1987. But between those two shows, just things really clicked in my mind.
Sorry, how old were you at that time?
Well, in July 4th, 86, I was probably 19, maybe even 18. So
life decisions are happening around this time. Do I do this? Do I do that? And
just
what are you going to do with your life? And
I graduated from mechanical engineering, and I went looking for work and just realized this isn't what I want. And I ended up working in the sandblasting company.
Oh, that's fun.
In Etobicoke. And even when I went for the job, the guy's like, you're way overqualified for this. I said, it's fine. I need to have employment, right? Yeah. And it was you come home at night and there's sand in every unspeakable area. It's under your fingernails. It's everywhere.
Sure.
And I was living in this really dodgy, depressing motel on the lakeshore. Now it's all condos. They tore that down, but it was a depressing, dark time.
Yeah.
And one night I wandered off to the phone booth, way before cell phones. And it was a gross phone booth. It smelled like stale smoke and urine. And it was just, everything about it was terrible.
Yeah.
I called my friend Don S. or Dee Dee.
Oh, yeah.
And, I was just kind of moaning to him about it. And he's like, why don't you go back to school and study photography? It's what you always have loved. And that was back in about 1980,
Yeah.
89. And I went back and I did that. But then there was a teacher strike about 5 weeks into the program.
Oh.
And it was going on forever.
Yeah.
And finally I just thought, this isn't what I wanted. This is what I signed up for. Now I'm a teacher. I understand why people go on strike, but as a young adult. So I withdrew from the program. And I took my money and I bought a one-way plane ticket to Europe.
Oh, really?
And it was like a 6-month open-ended plane ticket. And I had enough money because I got all my tuition back and whatever. I kept all my film and I had 2 camera bodies. And I flew to Frankfurt, Germany without knowing too much.
Wow.
I bought a van at an auction, an auto auction, not speaking German.
Right.
Just going, okay, all right. I raised the bid. And I left there with this van and I lived in that van for 6 months.
Wow.
And I never slept in any hotels, motels, hostels, anything. Once I got the van, that was my home. And I lived in that van for 6 months and I eventually crashed it. And it was a near-death experience. I was on my way to Greece and I got in a car accident in Yugoslavia, in the former Yugoslavia. This is before the Civil War there. And that was the end of things. So by the time I flew home, and after living in a van for 6 months, which was an extraordinary experience.
What were you doing in that 6 months? You're traveling around?
Traveling, taking pictures, learning photography on my own, learning to be a young adult, seeing things.
A lot of life lessons there, I bet.
I would just wake up in the morning and go, okay, where am I going? Where are we going? Because I had different people with me.
And how am I going to eat?
I cooked everything. I ate very bare bones. I was lean.
Yeah.
But I had a little cooker with 2 pots and 1 flame. And I would make pasta and then make the sauce. And I ate a lot of rice. And it was definitely poverty. But when you're...
But you were happy.
I was happy.
You were living the dream, literally.
Yeah, I was 19 years old. I didn't care. I was swimming in the
How did
creeks
mom and
to
dad
play.
feel about you taking off and doing that? Was that a conversation before you left? Or did you just say, I'm going?
I was going.
Yeah.
I was going.
I sensed they weren't thrilled.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other story that we wouldn't have time for.
But you did it.
I did it. And by the time I had finished, I got in the car accident. I realized I almost died in that accident. I was ready to come back to reality and come back to society. And so I re-enrolled in college and I went in. It was a 3-year program at the time. And I worked my butt off. I had straight A's as far as I recall. And I just did everything I could to learn photography.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a photographer. After living in a van for 6 months, I was ready to be a working, a respectable person in society.
Right.
And I was ready for it. And it worked out. It was all favorable for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's you talk about like you've made a career out of photography. And I think maybe sometimes that could be relatable. Tell me if I'm wrong. To being a rock star or being a professional baseball player. Like it's one of those. Well, that's okay. Take photography. Okay, be a photographer, but have a plan B. Did you hear that along the way? Like, oh, that's good, but mechanical engineering will pay better, or it's more reliable. Or did like you know what you probably had in your head, but did other people sort of?
No, most
just
people
knew you were
stayed
doing
right
it,
out. They knew. I think maybe I come across a little determined.
Yeah.
But no, I don't recall anyone saying, "Oh, maybe you should consider falling back on this."
Yeah.
But it's funny you mentioned the rockstar thing because I've always modeled. There was no blueprint for what I wanted to
Right.
do. I had photographers I looked up to and continue to look up to, but there's never been a career path where I've looked at it and went, this is how I'm going to do things, and I've been able to follow it. So I had to create my own roadmap, my own blueprint. And I always tried to model it, and I continue to, bands that start out in the beginning, they play clubs, 2 people show up. Next time they come through town, there's 20 people there. Next time they come through town, next thing they're moving up to the next size club. Then they're moving up to the theater. Then they move to the arena. So I always tried to look at that and go, this is the model that I'm familiar with, and I think this will work. And I'll keep going back, and I'll keep leaving a good impression, doing good work, being polite, showing up on time, dressing properly, getting the work to them on time, providing consistent results. knowing that people can count on me, not being seen with the guy that has a beer in one hand and the camera in the other.
Right.
Because there's a lot of temptation in the music industry. I
Yeah.
always wanted to be known as the guy with the camera.
Yeah.
I like to have a beer every once in a while, just like many people. But that wasn't my priority. My priority was to get.
It's easy to fall into.
For sure.
Like the rock star world, easy to fall into a lot of different gaps and groups. But you were able to create a blueprint that worked for you, and I've always been curious. Like it's like because you've done like you know what you are. You're a helix.
What do you mean a helix?
Helix.
The band or the screw?
The band.
Okay. Helix
played for every band. They're a story, and Brian Vollmer, I've talked to him many times. He said, you're like a helix in the photography world. You've done. Is there a band you haven't? Really, that's what I'm getting to, right? You know, like from the Bob Dylan to Def Leppard to the Tragically Hip, you went on tour with them, right? You know, like, and there's all these other bands in the midst of it all, like Iron Maiden, and you talk about. I know there's a Robert Plant story, and like, how do you pull that off? Like, there's contacts, and these guys all talk to each other, and then you build the relationships, and like, how did you pull that off?
First of all, I just want to mention the bands I did miss. I've seen Frank Zappa, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Prince. Yeah. I've seen all of them in concert.
Prince.
I never got to photograph any of those three.
I just saw a documentary on Prince last night, actually.
He's extraordinary.
So and
in concert, man, he blew my
I never
mind.
saw him, but I have a friend who did. Yeah, you saw him?
Yes, but I never photographed any of those three, and I never got to photograph the Cars. Now all these people are gone.
Yeah.
And the other one was Queen. Those are the five that I wish I would have been able to photograph.
Yeah. Oh, Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
Also unique in their own right, too, right?
For sure. And all extraordinary. But I got to see Frank Zappa. I got to see Prince. I got to see Stevie Ray Vaughan a bunch of times, but I never photographed them. Those are the five that I wish I would have. But how do you do it? I think, so I moved to Toronto in 94. I already had started building up a portfolio.
Okay.
Things really took off in 93. So I was in the dark room. This is a story I tell a lot. I was in the dark room one day, and I was printing a picture of the Rolling Stones that I took from 1989 at the CNE. And it was just a black and white photo. Back then it was in the dark room, traditional dark room.
1989. Oh, that was their like Steelers
Steel Wheels tour. I brought my camera and I took it from the crowd. I didn't have a press pass. But I got some pretty good photos. Anyway, I was in the dark room printing it, and there was this woman in there, one of my classmates, named Paula Tizard. Great photographer, still a great photographer today. And she said, "Oh, you're into photographing rock bands or whatever?" I said, "Yeah, I mean, I love rock and roll, and this is just some concert that I did in the past." And she said, "You should talk to my brother, Ken Tizard.
I was just going to say, is she related to Ken Tizard from Great White?
Well, Ken,
no,
the Watchman.
Oh, the Watchman.
He's the bass player in the Watchman.
Right, yeah.
And but at the time, he wasn't in the Watchman yet. He's a photo editor for this magazine called Music Express, Canadian magazine, national magazine. He said, "You should go talk to him." So I went to Toronto a weekend or two later, and I met with Ken, and he was great. We totally hit it off. We're about the same age. And I told him that summer I was going to be going to England because I was going to try and do some photography. And he's like, well, you're in England, you should go visit this agency called Syndicated International Network.
Okay.
SIN is the acronym. And let them know that you're in England and you're keen and you want to do some photography. So I did what Ken had suggested. It turns out the photo editor there, name's Leanne Hensher, is a Canadian. And we just hit it off based on the fact that we're both Canadians in London. And she gave me all kinds of great jobs. And I'm only in my second year at the moment.
Right.
And she, I photographed U2 in Stuttgart that summer. I was in Belgium, and I did this huge festival with Metallica was a headline.
Wow.
Had Neil Young on the bill. Near the bottom was the Tragically Hip. So it was the first time I ever photographed the Tragically Hip. Oh man, I can't remember right now, but there was a whole bunch of other bands that I'd photographed this summer. And it was all because of this Paula, Ken, Leanne connection.
Right.
And it helped build my portfolio, and I was only in second year at that time. Another thing Ken did for me that time, he called me up on my birthday, not because it was my birthday, just coincidence. November 3rd, 1993, called me and he said, Richard, tomorrow night, Nirvana's playing November 4th at Maple Leaf Gardens.
Wow.
We need a photographer. Would you be okay with driving to Toronto? And I'm like, yeah, dude.
So let me think about it.
Yeah, for sure, I'll go do that. So it was just another one of those things that was big, but I got it through awesome connections.
I remember he came to Sarnia. He was in Sarnia years ago. And I'm pretty sure I did a brief interview with him. Like he was maybe at the radio station, and I went in there and met him or something. And I do remember him being a very friendly guy.
Oh, great guy.
Right? You know,
I follow him on Instagram. He's still playing music. He still plays with the Watchmen.
Yeah.
He's a skateboarder, and he's relearning skateboarding.
Oh, yeah.
So you see a bit of his skateboarding journey. Yeah. So anyway, he connected me with all of that stuff. So the other thing that I did was I went to Fanshawe College because there wasn't a photography program at Lambton at the time. They had a school newspaper at Fanshawe called the Interrobang. I was their photographer for doing events and music and whatever happened at the college. Now, I didn't want to do sports or lifestyle. And so one day I went to the editor. I said, is there any reason why we can't photograph stuff in Toronto, bigger things, rather than just doing these local London shows? And he said, well, Richard, I don't have the time to pursue that, but if you want to make the phone calls, you can do it. I'm a bit of a keener, so I started making some phone calls. And I started getting, I photographed Rush and ZZ Top and these things that were playing at Maple Leaf Gardens just because I reached out. And
ask, right?
Yeah. And so before I'd even graduated, I started building these contacts and started to learn just a little bit about the industry and the fact that I'm a bit keen and I'm into it. And so when I graduated in 94, I moved to Toronto within weeks of graduating.
Oh,
I didn't even go to my graduation because I just was dying to get to Toronto.
Couldn't wait to get going.
I wanted to get out of London because it just wasn't big enough for me. I wanted to move on. It was a great stepping stone. And I went to Toronto, and this is before, or maybe the internet was just launching. So it was before the internet. And I went and knocked on all these doors of magazines, Impact Magazine, Access, Chart Magazine, CD+.
You put in all the sweat equity.
For sure.
Right. And I think is that sometimes I think people want to, graduate school and, where's the job and let's go. And that sweat equity, though, it teaches you a lot of things along the way, too. It's not just putting in the time to get the gigs or the jobs or whatever you're trying to accomplish. Right.
And we talk about that in my business class.
Yeah.
Sweat equity. It's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we all want the money. Let's be honest, right? Why do we go to school? We want to get a career in something so we can get a good job and, live happily ever after kind of thing. But the sweat equity side, I feel anyway, is often missed in people because they want the quick paycheck. And but the reward that comes from sweat equity, if you do it right, if you're willing to learn from your mistakes but keep pushing forward, can be so much larger.
That's right. Because
and some would say, well, you're putting the cart before the horse. No, I think sometimes we have it backwards, right? And where did this work ethic, this sweat equity philosophy, where did that come from? Who taught you that?
Well, no one taught me directly, but certainly by seeing how hard my dad worked.
Yeah.
I think when I look at all my cousins, I think they've all been hard laborers.
You've been around
workers. Yeah. And then, paying attention to bands and trying to model myself after the way they succeed.
Great model.
And then I wanted it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a music photographer. Yeah. And, there's always a lot of competition in the music industry because everyone wants to do it, but no one really wants to put in that effort because it's not coming to you tomorrow.
No.
You got to make a name for yourself.
But I got a great song. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to pay the dues.
Right.
And build some
You got to
trust.
get people to hear it. Right. There's a lot of relationship building, I would think, in what you do. And you just nailed something I wanted to bring up. There's what you do requires a lot of confidentiality.
For sure.
And that could be even right now, if I looked in your cell phone, the phone numbers, right? That confidentiality. And when you're given permission to be close to me, the celebrity, or the rock star, You probably hear conversations and see things and whatever, and you have to guard that.
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm
just
not talking
be,
like bad things. I'm just saying, but it's a privacy thing.
Yeah, you got to be street smart. Like in some cases, I might know an album idea that's coming up before it's being released to the public.
Right.
Or I know concert dates.
You have to sign DNAs and stuff like that, or
I never have.
It's just,
I think it's just
recognized.
Yeah. It's a bit of just being street smart, really.
I
being
get it.
Cool. Because you drop the ball on that once, it's going to circulate really
I got
quickly.
a few phone numbers on my phone too, and it's like,
it's
you have to guard that. It's important, and well, I think it's just a respect thing at the end of the day, because they get
before you tell the story, you got to think in your mind: is this a story I'm allowed to tell?
Right. Well, and sometimes ask for permission. Hey, is it okay if I say that, or would you? Maybe. Yeah, I'd rather you not. Right. I want to talk to you about the ask, and I mean the ask of, and we can get into the digital world now, and cameras are everywhere, but and maybe we will a little bit. But the ask, may I take your picture, or do you just take it? Robert Plant.
Oh, the Robert Plant story. So, well, when I photographed Robert Plant, I mean, I've photographed him a handful of times already. And I got to meet him before, which was really amazing.
That's cool.
But that particular time, he was there with Alison Krauss. I forget the name of the album, Raising Sand.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a little press conference beside the Molson Amphitheater. At the time, it was the Molson Amphitheater. And I arrived early because I had a photograph of Robert Plant. I was thinking about asking him if he would sign it. It wasn't essential, but I brought it with me.
Right.
I was in the tent first, I think. There might have been one other person. And it was probably 30 chairs in the tent. There was a table up front, and it was going to be Allison, Robert, and the record producer, super famous, and I can't remember his name right now. Anyway, there's 3 chairs up front. Robert came in and sat down, and no one else was in the room except for me, and I think there was maybe one other person. And I thought, there's 2 things I could do here.
Right.
Or maybe 3. 3 would be nothing. 1, 2, I could take my photograph up and ask him to sign it. Or 3, I could make a portrait of him. Excuse me. And I thought, the camera was sitting on my lap, so I was already ready. And so I thought, he's in a press conference or preparing for one. He knows he's about to be photographed, so it's not going to be rude. So what I did was I raised my camera up, and he could see it happening, and he was just sitting there like this, looking at me. And he knew it was a portrait. We had this communication that wasn't verbal.
Not a word.
There was no verbal, but he knew. So I just gently, not jerkily, it's like an animal in the sense you don't want to scare him away. Mm-hmm. And I just raised the camera up, and I made 3 or 4 frames, and that was it. And I just put my camera down, and he kind of just gave me this nod, and without saying any words, it was, thank you for not being obnoxious about it.
Yeah.
But when I brought the camera up, it was like, okay, I know I'm about to be photographed. I forget how his hand.
Did he give you a pose?
Yeah.
He knew.
Yeah. He knew I was photographing, so he knew he wanted to look good. And it was this really great light coming through the back. Robert Plant has a beautiful hair, and it was lighting the back of his hair, which I recognized even at the time. And he gave me this little pose, and it ends up being this perfect portrait. So I did make a portrait of Robert Plant. I never directed him.
Yeah. It was all natural.
It was just this natural thing. And
you had a connection.
And then I put the camera down.
How cool is that you can say, never even mind the photograph, I had a connection with Robert.
Yeah.
Like really, like seriously, that's a, and I mean, these people sometimes, especially like a Robert Plant, like he knows who he is.
Yep.
He knows who he is, but
he knows why he's there. He's working.
Yeah,
that's his job.
Right. But some of these, sometimes people might say, well, rock stars, they're arrogant or whatever. And, they're just people, right, Richard?
That's right.
I know you've been asked questions before. I've read and watched some interviews, and it's like you get the question of like, well, who is the nastiest and whatever. It's like, why ask that question? Mm-hmm. Like who would be the most friendliest that maybe I'd always be curious, like, we the audience judge, he just looks like such a jerk on stage, but then maybe really isn't. That's part of their persona sometimes, or their character. Mm-hmm. A lot are playing a character.
Oh, on stage, they definitely assume the role.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of two things there. That's what they naturally are.
Yeah.
But I've seen people backstage or off stage where they are a little different than when they get on stage, and then they have a job to do.
That's right.
The lead singer, it's a huge responsibility, because especially if there's 70,000 people in the crowd,
right,
or 20,000, their job is to
entertain,
get everyone into it, right? The guitar player, bass player, drummer, they're all going to do their thing, but the singer's job, lead vocalist, they have a big responsibility.
They're the frontman of the band.
Yeah, like, and when you look at somebody like Geddy Lee, who's playing keyboards, playing bass, singing, right. That guy is the busiest musician on stage that I've ever seen of anybody.
Yeah, yeah. I remember, I just actually, must be the laws of the universe, because I was watching something else the other day, and Geddy Lee was in there talking about being one of his biggest singles was Take Off to the Great White North.
Oh, hilarious. That was when we were in high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Bob and Doug McKenzie. And he was like, my biggest single was, and you think, what? Not a Rush, right?
Sorry, like 3 minutes ago, you and I were just about to, I was going to tell you a Michael Hutchins story, but I also want to tell you a Geddy Lee story right now, because last year Geddy Lee did a book tour.
Right.
And for part of that tour, I was the photographer.
Nice.
And I would go do, I'd photograph sound check just to get some stuff off the record or whatever. And all the nights, Geddy would come over and talk to me after sound check. And it was really extraordinary, because he really was just so down to earth and human. And
just a guy making a living.
Every night it was a different story I could tell you. But the one night I wanted to just mention is that we were talking, he was wearing a Grateful Dead shirt.
Oh.
I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan. And we started talking about Phil Lesh, the bass player from the Grateful Dead. And it was just a conversation between two guys. But later on in my hotel room, this was in Montreal, it occurred to me, holy crap, I was just talking to the bass player of Rush about the bass player of the Grateful Dead, two of my all-time favorite bands in the whole world. And if you would have told me that at St. Clair High School, had a crystal ball, and went, this is what's going to happen 10 years from now or 20 years from now.
You'd be like, whatever.
Yeah. How's that even possible?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
But it happened.
But like you said, you called it something, a blueprint or a roadmap, and I think, a lot of times too, we want the cookie cutter, like, okay, and you probably see it as a teacher, you probably see, just tell me how to do it. Just tell me how to do it. I can't tell you how to do it. You probably try to teach that as much as you can, but it really, a lot of it just comes from going out and doing. I don't know, I hate the word fail, but failure and success are friends, really.
For sure.
And I say that almost every time, but every successful person that I speak with understands that. And, I want to lead to, and we're going to come back to it. Boy, this will be a 4-hour documentary. But there's an idea. Here now, we're sitting in the photography department at Lambton College, and, I have run into so many people that I know that they're younger than me, but when my karaoke days met, maybe they were, however I met them, so many I know have taken your course and just say, oh, wow, I'm so thrilled to be able to have, like, they know who Richard Beland is. You're a rock star photographer. It's really what you are. And I know you don't necessarily think of yourself that way, but do you understand the impact you've had on your students?
Well, yes and no. I mean, the students who've been successful and tell me stories, I realize that the formal, I don't think of it as me, Richard, Ricky. It was me that did it, but I do think our program is built in the way that it directs you towards success. I firmly believe a formal education is so important in becoming a professional photographer. So it's not that I'm taking the credit for it as a single individual. I think every part of this program is made to put you in position for success. It's up to you when you leave here to pursue it, and to pursue it actively and relentlessly. But no, I never think of it as just me. I'm just one of the people.
I hear, and I'm not just blowing smoke at you. I've had a lot of conversations from Karen to Pauline to so many others in between that I'm sure you would recall, and they all say the same thing. They really are just so grateful, and I want people to know, in getting to know you over the years and the conversations we have, and I've talked about you behind your back a lot, but I want people to know Lambton College should know that they're very fortunate to have the rock star photographer. And I don't mean necessarily the rock star photographer because you take pictures of rock stars. When we say that guy's a rock star, that's what I'm talking about. And what you share, your experience that you can bring to the table here at the program. And I know the program, in beginning. How long have you been teaching it now?
I think I'm going into my 14th year, but
Yeah.
You can't hold me to that. But I
Yeah.
believe.
But there's been a lot of changes, because even in the 14 years, I mean, we're such in a digital world now compared to a film world. The progression of the program to, like you get your drone or RPAS license now in the program, right?
I got it. I took the class.
Yeah,
because I have my drone license.
And that just shows the adaptiveness. Is how you continue to adapt the program. Has that been challenging along the way, though? Like, what do we put in, what do we take out, kind of thing?
I wouldn't call it a challenge. I mean, it is a challenge, but it's just adapting.
Yeah.
It's just what you have to do to stay relevant. Otherwise, you'll just fall behind, and students will want to.
So, do you fly? Do you have a drone and you fly it? And
Yeah.
You're taking pictures.
Yeah,
with
I
it?
do. I use it for real estate photography.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I do real estate photography since COVID. I ended up getting some real estate work, and I really, really enjoy it. I absolutely love it, actually.
Yeah. I when I got my license, I think it was during COVID as well, and I didn't have to get my license. I had the Mini 2 kind of thing, but I said, why not take it? Because it's part of what I do, and it's easier to explain to people sometimes.
For sure.
But
and there are things you learn that are important.
Oh, I remember first taking it and going, why do I need to know the cloud formation of whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as I went through, because I learned that I'm a ham radio operator too, so I learned, why do you got to get a license to talk on a radio? Well, as you do it, you really realize it was the same thing with the drone. That modern technology, there's a whole other story too, but I remember the first time going up, the anxiety I felt of this little thing. Is it going to come back or whatever? And do you have to, did you experience any of that with it too? Were you
Absolutely.
nervous? Yeah. I think you have to, really.
It's a big responsibility as well, because if it falls from the sky, it could hurt somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only 400 feet, but it's really up there.
Yep.
What about a pilot's license? Did you ever think about that? I just talked to Glenn Fenwick recently, and
I have thought about it,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to do it. But the reason I thought about it is because I'm the house photographer for Fallsview Casino in Niagara Falls.
Oh, okay.
I was there last night, and I drive home every night, and sometimes I don't get home till 1:30 in the morning.
Right.
Never missed a class. I always go to class. But I did think, my uncle had his pilot license. He's like, you can buy a plane, you can be flying back and forth to Niagara for not that much more money, and it'd be a lot quicker.
Yep.
No traffic. So I peripherally thought about it, and I did a bit of research on how much a plane costs and all that. But no, I didn't do it because
it's not too late, Richard.
Well, I know. I know. You never know.
All these experiences that you've combined together, and well, actually, there's a few specific things, but let's talk a little bit more about the program here. Sell it right now, Richard. What makes it, aside from you and Jeff who teaches, what makes the program so unique compared to anybody else?
Well, I think the greatest selling point, I believe, is that think about a hockey team, like an NHL hockey team.
Okay.
Every person on that ice is put out there by the coach, and the coach chooses who's going on the ice based on the various roles. And it's not about one player. Occasionally, if you got Wayne Gretzky or whatever, it is about one player.
Right.
But it's not about one player. It's about what those 5 individuals, or 6 with the goalie, achieve as a unit.
Right.
So when you look at our program, what I believe makes us unique around the province of Ontario is that all of our instructors are working photographers. We wouldn't hire an instructor if they weren't working.
They're not just a weekend warrior, so to speak.
No.
Yeah.
And when I studied photography at Fanshawe, I had a great education. My teachers were great. I respect them and owe a lot to them to this day. But they weren't working photographers, so they didn't have that perspective of what's going on out in the real world. Why do you need to know this in the real world? What went wrong in the real world, and how do you fix it? Because you're a problem solver when you're a photographer. So you know my story, what I do. Jeff Robbins is a working photographer. Tu Lyra is a working photographer. Corey Lecky's a working videographer. We're all working. So what we bring in is a story that just last night, I could tell you a story of what I did last night. So I'm bringing fresh information in all the time. So when I stand in front of the class, even when I'm teaching the most fundamental things like f-stop and shutter speed, I can relate it to a story.
Right.
I can tell you how I used it, why I used it. I'm not just delivering fluff
Here's
from
some
a textbook.
Notes, learn it and share it.
Yeah, I'm actually going, okay, this is what I did. And it's not because I want to tell you a story about Green Day or Coldplay or whatever. It's because it relates directly to what I do. So I think we have a real unique product.
Yeah.
We have a 2-year program, and it's a product. We're selling it to students. And it's our goal to never waste your time. I don't put stuff in the program that I don't think is useful. So that's the biggest thing. All of our instructors are working photographers.
Yeah.
We do a field study every year with the second years to New York City. And again, it's not like, oh, let's go to New York. It's about culture. It's about art. It's about photography. And I think it's really important. And we go to New York City because it is the cultural kind of...
Sure, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's the cultural island of North America for what I've done in my career. So I think those are two of the great selling points. Our class sizes are typically, let's say, modest, smaller. When I went to Fanshawe, we probably had over 100 students. I think they have more than that now. And I'm not knocking their program because it is a really great program. All of the programs in Ontario are great. We have a standard we all have to meet. So you can go anywhere and you're going to get a great education.
But everybody's got their own little feature points. Yeah.
Our program is smaller, so we can give you one-on-one. I know all the students' names within a week.
Yeah.
And I know where their weaknesses are. I know where their strengths are. I can sit in my office around the corner. I can help people individually.
And you've got, I would imagine, I know from some of the people who are currently taking your course that like age 19 to 90, so to speak.
Our oldest student graduated at 78 years old.
Isn't that amazing?
And I didn't even want him to graduate because I really loved him. I still love him. And I didn't want him to leave because he's such a great student. But Richard Morton graduated, I think he was 78.
Okay.
Our youngest students are
So you get a little different age demographic in there, a good mix in there, like to maybe a mom factor to a kid factor and everything else in between, right?
And it becomes, you can watch in the beginning, the young people are like, oh, that person's older. I probably won't communicate. You can kind of feel that vibe,
right?
But by 3-4 weeks in, everyone's talking to everyone and everyone's friends, and then eventually it becomes a little family unit, and they become friends. And I watch real friendships develop. Hey, goosebumps thinking about that.
You saw that for sure. We were down at the Lawrence House earlier in the year, and there was a big show there, as well as down at the I don't want to call it, not the flea market, but
the downtown market.
The downtown market, thank you. And it's funny you say that because I went around, I did an interview with you and I think a few others, and then went down to the downtown market and I saw Robin Marks, who's a big fan of your course. And everybody, there was a vibe in that room, starting at the Lawrence House to the downtown market. All the students, you could feel the love, I guess, so to speak, between them all. And that in itself, I think, is very unique to what you're doing.
I think it's because we have smaller classes. Like we range anywhere from 19. The most students we've ever had is 31. So it's this one room for 2 years. You either have to get along or it's just not going to work. Occasionally we get some people that butt heads, but not really.
Yeah.
And I see genuine friendships develop in this room.
Beyond when they're done here, they continue.
They've never even met each other on day one, and they're friends for life.
Yeah,
and that's no exaggeration.
Do you have to keep yourself on track when you're teaching, like not telling all these wonderful stories that you have in your back pocket?
Well, I think any student will be able to say, well, Richard goes on tangents once in a while. Because occasionally I get on a story and I'm like, oh crap, get back in lane, buddy.
By the way, lighting.
Yes.
Today
but
we're talking lighting,
I do. I used to be quite reserved about it, and my dean at the time said, Richard, you got to get out front of your program and start telling stories about what you do.
I think it's an important part of it.
And I do now.
Hear it, and then because why you're sharing the possibility.
Yeah,
it's real in front of me, the student. I got to keep pushing this forward because there's so much I want to cover. But you earlier when you talked about Robert Plant, you talked about the pose, and look at the Tragically Hip. Gord Downey. There's another story.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know if you remember, I took some pictures. They played at Rock the Park years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
And I, on my little handy cam or whatever it was, he was totally making, what did you take with this, right? You were picking me apart, but in a fun way. I brought some in and I said, look, I got
you got
pictures
some good
of
photos.
Gord Downey. And I've got some pictures at home still that, anyway, I would cry just talking about that story. But talk about a guy, my experience anyway, who knows how to pose for the camera. There were, I don't know, probably 20 of us anyway in the media pit, maybe more, taking pictures. And I feel like he made sure every person in that pit got something. Would you agree with that?
I don't want to disagree, but I think there's a lot more onus on the photographer with Gord Downey, because Gord was quite a natural entertainer, front person, dancer. He was completely unpredictable. Totally. I did many shows in a row, lots of times, and you never knew what was coming on stage that night. So I think you're right. There is a photograph there for everybody, but it's up to the photographer to wait for that moment. Because Gord, he just unfolded into something. And if you catch it here, it might not be it. But when you catch it here, that's it. Yeah. And you had to be very patient and diligent to capture that decisive moment, to quote Henri Cartier-Bresson. And you had to wait for that moment. You had to catch the crescendo, because he would go like this, and then you had to wait. There it is. If you waited too long, it went outside the frame.
Right.
So I don't know if I'm describing it right, but
no, yeah,
you're right. He did give every photographer something.
He knew what he was doing, I think.
But it was the photographer's job to capture
Here you
that
go.
peak
Take it or leave it.
Genius, that peak madness, that peak moment of
You don't just take a whole bunch of pictures and then go through and pick the one that worked.
I don't burst because I grew up shooting film, and every time you hit the frame, it costs money.
That's right. You got to know when to take the shot.
So I still shoot more now, but I still don't burst to this day. It's just the way I.
And you traveled with the Tragically Hip, and were given a lot of privilege to be able to just.
I was given
document them.
Excellent access to the band. The band and their management were very kind to me. They would let me go on stage. I could stand on Johnny's drum riser. Johnny said to me one night, because I would go on the stage, and he'd say, you're welcome to stand on my drum riser. Just make sure I know it's you, so I don't knock you off my drum riser. So I'd always make sure I had a visual of me. Then I would stand up.
Here it comes.
And the very first time they ever brought me on stage was in Vancouver on the Phantom Power tour. I'd never been on a big stage before.
Wow.
And they came off stage for the encore. And Rob Baker came up to me and said, Richard, do you want to come out on stage with us for the encore? And I just answered yes, but I had no idea what to do. And they started walking on stage. No one told me where to stand. They never said a word to me. So I'm walking out on this massive stage. It's where the Vancouver Canucks play. And the crowd, the four guys walk on, Gord Downey, and then me. So Gord Downey comes on stage, and the lights are on because they want people to see the band. The crowd's, and then I'm like, I don't know where to. No one told me what to do. I've never been on a big stage in front of a massive crowd, so it was really. I was really nervous. I just stood in the back.
Well, and somebody must have got your picture being up there.
I don't know if anyone reads this or sees this. So I got okay photographs, but I didn't have the right lens on. I just didn't know what to expect.
Sometimes you just keep going.
But that opened the door, and then from that point forward, going on the stage was part of something I would do in my night.
Right.
I'd run all over the arena. I'd go up at the top, I'd go over here, I'd go down front, and then I'd go behind the stage.
Wonderful.
It just opened up a new door.
So much more I want to talk about, but we got to start wrapping up, but I think it's only fair to talk about. I know you always have some projects on the go, and you got some things coming up here. Talk about the book.
Okay. Yeah, I always have something cooking. I've been working on this. I've always wanted to have a photo book, but it had to be right. So on October 25th at List Gallery on Cumberland Street up in Yorkville in Toronto, I have an opening of an exhibition that'll be happening, but I'm also launching a photo book that night. And Brian Liss from the gallery has been very supportive and a great help with it. The book is going to be 250 pages. It has a pretty lengthy intro that I wrote, plus I wrote 25 short stories on 24 different bands that have been influential and played a big role in my career or me personally. So there's 25 stories. I say 24 different bands because I wrote 2 on the Tragically Hip.
Oh, wow.
And then there's over 200 photographs. I've laid the book out A to Z because I've photographed a band from every letter, and some of the bands, like A, for example, has Aerosmith, AC/DC, Alanis Morissette. But there's some band from every letter in the alphabet, over 200 photos.
Nice.
One of my graduates is designing the book.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, great designer, great guy. Juan, he's taking care of it for me, and it'll be ready. I work on it every day. I was working on it this morning before I got here.
Nice.
But my deadline's coming. It's looming. But it's going to be extraordinary. I'm very excited. It's called Our Immortal Stars Volume 1. And Volume 1 would imply that there will be a Volume 2 and hopefully a Volume 3. I've just photographed so many bands, I can't put...
No.
The book would be 5,000
Well, you've got
pages.
so many stories too. Like we
Yeah.
just spent an hour talking about most of it, and that's probably just scratching the scratch on the scratch of the surface of what you can share. So
There are lots of
I'm
stories.
looking forward to seeing that. I'm going to put that in my calendar and see if I can
Love it if you can make
get
it,
down
yeah.
there and support you.
It'll be a
because-
great night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the last time I saw you at a show, it was the ISO was downtown.
Mm-hmm.
In the different location downtown where it is now, or is now, or was now, or whatever. And Mike Stevens was there.
That's right.
And I just happened to be, I think it was a first Friday, and I just happened to be walking. I knew you guys were there, and I didn't plan it. There's that thing. I didn't plan it. I knew I was going there. And I remember coming in the back, and there was you and Mike, and I was like, you were seconds from walking out on stage, and I just said, guys, can I get a picture? And we both went into pose mode, and we got a selfie, and I was like, thanks, I'll let you go. And 30 seconds later, you guys were out on stage. And that for me was a moment where I, like, here's Richard and Mike together. These are, like, you guys are rock stars to me. And I've interviewed
Mike is
too.
a legit rock star.
Oh, wow, amazing, right? I need to come back and see him again soon. But
He's
to
a
me,
great guy.
that's that thing. It was like, there's that moment. And I'm not a photographer. This is what I do. But there's that moment to just go ask. Just ask. And you could have said no. You could have said, God, we're ready to go. But so glad I asked. I still have that picture. I have to dig it up. And
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
And I still have a picture that you gave me, I think 5 years ago, of Gord Downing. And I'm supposed to give it away to an auction or something. I struggle letting that go from my fingertips. I promised I would, so I will. But I still pull it out and look at it.
Well, there's a handful of pictures of Gord in the book, so
nice.
If you get the book, you'll have a bunch of Gord photos, and maybe there's even a copy of that one.
Cool, right on. I can't thank you enough for your time, Richard.
Oh, I'm
and
so
congratulations on everything you've done and what you're doing here along with the team at Lambton College. If you're thinking about it, stop thinking about it. Sign up for the course here at Lambton College, and this will be one of the experienced photographers you'll get to enjoy learning from. I've learned a lot, and it's never to use a handy cam in a media pit ever again. Thanks for watching, everybody. You know what I'll say here. Click the love button, but please click the share button. It's the most important button so we can share Richard's story. It's the only way I know you. Can't call you Ricky. And everybody else I have here on the show. But as always, that's all the time I got for you this week. Have a great week and an even better weekend. I'll see you next time right here on the show. Bye for now.